August the 4th. Have just heard that B has been dead more than a fortnight, so his poor children have now lost both parents. I hear she was seen on Friday last near the Strand, evidently without a place to lay her head. What a fool hers has been. That was the only text given to visitors at the 1858 Royal Academy exhibition. No title, no painter's name on the label. 3 paintings, hung side by side, and those 4 sentences. The paintings had no name when they were made and no name when their maker died, 5 years later, in Algiers at 46 from asthma. The title they carry now, past and present, was attached to them after his death, possibly by mistake, possibly borrowed from a nearby review in the exhibition catalogue. We don't know for certain. What we know is that in 1858 only one other exhibit attracted more attention at the Royal Academy. That was William Frith's Derby Day, a crowded and celebratory painting of Race Day at Epsom. Everything else, every portrait and landscape and history painting, fell behind these 3 canvases. Some critics found them horrible, several found them compelling in a way they couldn't quite account for. The first painting is a drawing room. Middle-class Victorian, prosperous, wallpapered, heavy with the specific weight of things carefully acquired over time. The late afternoon light catches the furniture and the floor. There are 2 children in it, young girls playing on a chair in the left foreground. One of them is building a house of cards. The other watches. On the floor in the centre of the room, prostrate, face turned away from the viewer, is a woman. Her dress is spread around her. Her hands are clasped. She is not unconscious. She is in the particular position of someone who has stopped trying to hold themselves upright. The man sits at the table to the right. He holds a crumpled letter in one hand. His posture is not rage. It's something worse, closer to the first few seconds after the blow lands, before the body knows what to do next. Under his left foot, barely visible, is a portrait miniature. The face in it belongs to another man. That's the scene, the discovery, the letter that ends the marriage, the portrait of the lover ground under his heel, the woman on the floor, the children who don't yet know. Now look at what Egg built into the room around them, because the room is doing as much work as the figures. At the base of the girl's house of cards, propping it up, is a novel. The novel is by Honoré de Balzac. Balzac, the great French chronicler of desire and ruin, of marriages entered for the wrong reasons, of women trapped by circumstance into choices the world would not forgive. The Balzac is not incidental. Its presence in a Victorian drawing room is an accusation. French literature, French morality, French influence. This is what came in through the door with her. Above the wife's position on the floor, on the wall, hangs a small painting. It depicts Adam and Eve being expelled from Eden. Above the husband's position on the wall hangs another small painting, a shipwreck. Think about that for a moment. The painting above her is expulsion from paradise, the original fall, the first woman and her transgression. The painting above him is a shipwreck. She has fallen. He will be destroyed. Those are 2 different fates encoded in the decor of a Victorian drawing room. And they tell you something about what Egg was actually painting here, which is not simply the punishment of an unfaithful wife. It's a wreck, 2 wrecks. Everyone in this room is already lost. The children's house of cards sits on the chair between the parents. It's the most efficient symbol in the painting. It will fall. It's already falling. The only question is how much longer it takes. The Matrimonial Causes Act had come into force that same year. 1858, the year Egg exhibited these paintings, was the first year that divorce had been a realistic legal prospect for people who weren't extraordinarily wealthy. Before 1857, ending a marriage required an Act of Parliament. After 1858, it required a civil court. The Act made divorce imaginable for the middle classes for the first time, and the middle classes were terrified by the fact that it did. The debates around the Act had produced one of the most clarifying statements about Victorian marriage that anyone put into the public record. The Lord Chancellor testified in Parliament that a wife could, without any loss of standing, overlook her husband's adultery. A husband could not condone the same act from his wife. That was not an argument anyone bothered to disguise. It was stated plainly in the House of Lords as a statement of how the law ought to work, and the law agreed with it. In 1858, a man's adultery was a venial sin. A woman's adultery was grounds for the destruction of her entire existence. Not the marriage, the existence. Egg knew this. He painted it. The second and third paintings are not what comes next in the story. They are what happens simultaneously. The same moment, 5 years later, 2 different locations. The same small cloud passing across the same moon. In the original 1858 exhibition, the drawing room scene was hung in the centre, raised slightly above the other 2, flanked by these paired images. You were meant to look at the drawing room and then look left and right and understand that both of these things are happening at the same time, in the same city, on the same night. The second painting is a garret, the same 2 girls, 5 years older. The room is sparse, the kind of sparse that suggests they've been here a while and it's never going to improve. The elder girl is at the window, looking out toward the moon, her posture carrying all the specific weight of someone who is trying not to think about something. The younger has her face buried in her sister's lap. On the mantelpiece, 2 portraits. Their parents, their father who has died, their mother who has been expelled. Both parents are gone and the girls are here, in this room. And outside the window, the moon is the same moon their mother is looking at on the other side of the city. The painting makes this explicit through the detail of the cloud cover. Same cloud, same moon, same moment. They can't see each other. They are connected by nothing except the sky. The third painting is the most devastating thing Egg made, maybe the most devastating thing in Victorian art, full stop. The woman is under one of the Adelphi arches by the Thames. The Art Journal in 1858 described the Adelphi arches as the lowest of all the profound deeps of human abandonment in this metropolis. That's where she is. She's wrapped in dark clothes. She holds a bundle in her arms. From the bundle protrude the thin feet of an infant, the child she had with the man she ruined herself for, the man whose miniature portrait her husband ground under his heel in the drawing room. She looks out at the river, the same moon. Above her head, the wall of the arch is plastered with handbills. 2 of them advertise plays, Victims and A Cure for Love. Both comedies, as it happens. Both featuring the structural plot machinery of Victorian domestic comedy. Jilted lovers, mistaken identities, resolutions that come just in time. The irony is not gentle. A third poster advertises pleasure excursions to Paris. Paris, with its Balzac, its French morality, its implication of the kind of freedom that Victorian England defined itself against and feared. The arch frames her the way a stage proscenium frames an actress. She is lit differently from everything around her. The Tate scholarship notes that this light replicates gaslight, the kind installed in all London theatres by this period. She is displayed. She is watched. She is a performance of what happens to women who make the wrong choice, and the audience is invited to respond however they see fit. The baby's feet are what the eye keeps returning to. Small, bare, sticking out of a bundle of rags on the coldest possible night, under a bridge, by the Thames. Here is what Victorian England would have expected you to conclude. She brought this on herself. The law agreed. The church agreed. The Lord Chancellor agreed. The husband who committed the same act would not have lost his children, would not have lost his home, would not have ended up in the cold under an arch. The Lord Chancellor said as much in Parliament a year before these paintings were made, and no one in the room appears to have objected. Egg did not paint an argument. He painted a situation. He left the conclusion to the viewer, which is why Ruskin felt compelled to intervene, why critics disagreed, why the paintings generated more sustained discussion than almost anything else at the 1858 exhibition, because if you look at that woman under the arch and feel the full weight of the baby's feet and the cold light and the poster for a play called Victims hanging above her head, it becomes genuinely difficult to locate the moral your culture has told you to find. The woman on the floor of the drawing room in painting number 1 has her wrists pressed together. Her gold bracelet catches the light. A critic in 1858 noted that the bracelet resembles manacles. That reading has stayed in the scholarship ever since because it's impossible to unsee once you've seen it. She's on the floor of her own drawing room in a posture of supplication, her wrists bound by the symbol of the marriage that destroyed her, and her husband is sitting 3 feet away holding the letter that ends everything. The children are still building the house of cards. They're going to keep building it until someone tells them to stop. Nobody tells them to stop in the painting. The painting doesn't show what happens next. It shows only this: the moment before all of it becomes irreversible, the last second of the world they knew, and they're playing a game. This is where Egg's precision becomes something harder to categorize than moral instruction. He painted two children who have done nothing wrong inheriting the consequences of their parents' catastrophe in full. They lose both parents. They end up in a garret. They look at a moon. The triptych traces the mechanism by which one moment in one drawing room on one afternoon radiates forward in time and destroys 4 lives instead of 1. Look at the 2 aftermath panels together. The daughters praying in a garret and their mother sheltering under an arch, the same moon connecting them across the city. Egg hung them flanking the drawing room scene so that you looked left and right from the moment of rupture and saw both consequences simultaneously. Not as a sequence, as a simultaneity. This is the present. Both of these things happening right now, on the same night, under the same cloud. The girls don't know their mother is under a bridge. The mother doesn't know her daughters are praying. They're connected by a shared sky and absolutely nothing else. That's not a moral, that's a structure. Augustus Egg died in Algiers in 1863, 5 years after the exhibition, chronic asthma. He never married. He never had children. He had spent his career painting literary and historical subjects. Nobody wrote about what drove a bachelor with no personal stake in the divorce debates to make the most technically demanding and emotionally precise paintings of his career about a woman destroyed by marriage law. He left no letters explaining it. The paintings had no title, offered no interpretation, named nobody and nothing, just 4 sentences on a card. She was seen near the Strand without a place to lay her head. The triptych hangs in Tate Britain now, all 3 panels together, the way they were shown in 1858. The girls in the garret, the woman under the arch, the drawing room where the house of cards is still standing for one more second before everything falls. The moon is the same in all 3,